First is for appetite. Before we go again, we just share the various investment opportunities in the real estate market. First is for the government to create infrastructure. That has been said by me. And this is very important because, as you said rightly, most of our cost goes to infrastructure. And therefore, when our government, in partnership with private sector, develop the infrastructure, that is the water sources, ensure there's electricity, there are good roads, and also there is accessibility of raw materials without necessarily getting a lot of penalties. That becomes very easy, because now the other cost is the cost of land or the cost of property. And I heard the governor say here that in some counties they are giving even land for investors who are willing to develop. Let me demystify this and say, to start with, there are so many other investment opportunities in property even before going to what requires the government input. The first one is what you have just said. There are so many incomplete projects where people start with a lot of energy, and because of inadequate financial literacy, they end up doing a lot of costs at the beginning of the foundation, and they don't get enough money to complete. That's a very clean area where everybody in this room can start thinking of how you can come and partner with such people. In my custody, I already have several projects where people are asking me, Perminus, I have this apartment, I did up to second floor, I finished the money. These are people who are 60 years and above, so they don't have access to mortgages. They don't have access to other finances. So you are the people, the investors can come on board, we do a joint venture with such people. That's number one. Number two, I'll do very quickly, is own houses innovation. That's another thing that is happening. I saw the governor showing us the homes that were owned by the veterans, or those, I call them the colonialists, that came to Kenya to take over those days. So those are potential opportunities for you to come in, partner with the people on the ground, and make them habitable, great residences. But now coming to the other one of affordable housing, as my friend from Nigeria has said, it's critical to note that in Africa there was a time where we had a lot of excesses in terms of developing houses just for profit, and there was a lot of cash flow happening in the economies. Now we have so many loopholes that have been closed by so many economies or so many sovereignties. So that means with no excess accessibility to that cash, then those houses become invariable or become inaccessible. And therefore, the aspect of affordable houses becomes very critical. I happen to have sat with the PS of housing, grade 17 in Kenya, and I can tell you the foundation of affordable housing needs also investor guarantee. And that is why I know there's a conspiracy with the famous housing tax in Kenya. Kenya introduced a housing levy which was to guarantee the investors that once you come into a market, you want to develop a project, maybe 1,000 units, and let me just summarize it. You can see, yeah, my moderator is getting impatient. I just want to say, once you invest into 1,000 houses, for instance, are you assured of the market? So the government is bringing the housing tax, which guarantees you that once you take over a project, you start a project, an off-take of maybe 30% will be taken even by the government before they sell. The government doesn't have any other reserves for this because maybe they are overcommitted on loan repayments or they are overcommitted in other expenses. That means they have to create a fund. And this is something I think other countries in Africa can see. Creating a fund to supplement the private developers. Because if I do 1,000 houses, am I sure that my 1,000 houses will get the customers or will get the market? So what the government, like in Kenya, has done, which I think is a very good thing if it is well implemented, is to ensure that we have a kitty or a fund that as an investor, I know when I commit this, the government gives me 30% offtake. Then they assure me by the time I complete with the 𝐀𝐅𝐑𝐈𝐂𝐀 that I mentioned about, they can guarantee take over of the 70% and give it to the end user with an affordable rate of one or single digit interest rate, which otherwise doesn't happen in Africa. Our interest rate of mortgages is beyond comprehension. So again, when this is well implemented, I'm sure we can have a very great housing opportunities or property investment opportunities in Africa. And finally, the implementation of new technologies. In Africa, we have had always use of brick and mortar, the so-called conventional way of construction. I believe with the introduction of new technologies in construction, we are going to get a lot of transformation, because most of the cost also goes in labor. When you delay a project, you do a project in 24 months, which would otherwise have taken 12 months, you double your labor cost, you double the cost of construction, so we can involve or introduce the cost, the technology into the market. I believe that's going to be a great cost cutting, and again we'll be able to achieve the affordable housing agenda. Thank you.